Are there pathways to achieving a 500 trillion naira economy in 2026 or even 2030, as predicted by some persons or some groups, considering our current situation? Naturally, there's bound to be skepticism about Nigeria's institutional capacity to execute such a leap. But what are your thoughts overall, Prof?
Well, I'm not sure whether the 500 trillion you are mentioning is referring to 500 trillion budget for the
budget, as a matter of fact, budget.
Or 500 trillion GDP. We've already exceeded 500 trillion GDP. When you look at budget, is he referring to 500 trillion for federal government and all the state governments? That kind of figure, focusing on federal government. There is a pathway, a very tough pathway to get to tenfold increase, but not in a year. But he actually said, from what I read, 2030 rather than 2026. What I read was saying 2030. If you're looking at 2030, of course, there could be a pathway, but that pathway will be a very rough road to travel, because you have to unleash all the things holding us down. And then not only, you know what that means? It means that you have to look at government revenue going up to 400 trillion so that you can borrow 100 trillion to make it up to 500 trillion. You know what I mean?
Considering where we are right now, Prof, that's also, considering where we are right now, that's almost a 1,700% leap from where we are right now.
Oh, yes. But I have to, be devil's advocate. It asked me for pathways. One pathway is to just go away and print 400 trillion naira. Already we have printed 33 trillion and we are suffering it. You can print that so that you can, on paper, say that you've got a budget of 500 trillion because you've already printed 400 trillion. So that's one, that's being a devil's advocate. The second one is that he was looking at both government revenue and governance-related efficiencies to bring us to that track. On the government revenue, you have to be looking at two aspects of government revenue: optimizing current revenues, and then, of course, getting to bear on the government assets. Because I do know that if many of the government assets, if we shift to asset-based financing from debt-based financing, we can unlock huge hundreds of trillions of naira assets that are moribund. There are thousands of assets that federal government ventured into, industrial ventures and all of that. And even NNPC, for example, if we were to go to market with NNPC and then put about 50% of it up for grabs, then you can attract substantial money from them.